Welcome to Standard 4B. The goal of this presentation is to describe the role that religion played in the European age of exploration. We'll take a trip back in time and take a look at our essential question that we need to answer in this presentation, which is how did the expansion of European empires into the Americas, into Africa, into Asia, affect religion in those areas? In other words, as the Europeans arrive in these places like North and South America, in the southern part of Africa, and southeastern part of Asia, they brought their religion with them, and that's going to have an effect on the religions that had previously been practiced in these parts of the world. In order to answer this question, it helps to have some understanding. One of these is that one of the motives for European exploration was a desire to spread Christianity. Christianity is a religion that does have a value placed on spreading its religious beliefs to new people and to new lands, and so that was a motivating factor in the explorers. They wanted to bring their religious belief to the lands that they were going to. We see this reflected in the writings of Christopher Columbus, who shortly after he arrived in the Americas in 1492 noted this about the native peoples he encountered down in the Caribbean. He wrote that, "I believe that they," and by they he meant the Native Americans, "would easily be made Christians, for it appeared to me that they had no creed." A creed is a religious belief or faith. In other words, Columbus, when he hops off the boat, he takes a look around and he doesn't see churches, he doesn't see Bibles, he doesn't see crosses. In fact, he doesn't even see any of the other religious traditions he as a European would be familiar with. He doesn't see any evidence of Islam or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism, other religions from the Eastern Hemisphere. So Columbus, in this European Christian mindset, makes the assumption that if those religions aren't present, these native peoples must not have any religious belief. Of course, the reality was different. Different Native American groups did have different religious beliefs and practices. It's just that they weren't the five world religions that Columbus and the Europeans were familiar with. The other essential understanding we want for this presentation is that the migration of colonists from Europe spread the Christian religion to new lands. It was this movement. Migration is a movement from one place to another. Might help to think about birds for a second. We describe certain birds as migratory. Those are the ones that leave in the wintertime for warmer climates. They leave one place for another. Christianity was spread as a result of these European colonists leaving Europe and their Christian background there and bringing that religious belief and religious background to these new lands. If we take a look at our map of religions in 1500, the world religions anyway in 1500, we'll notice that Christianity 500 years ago was largely a European religion. Okay, Europe was really the base of Christianity. We do see a cross in the Caribbean marking this map being 8 years after the arrival of Columbus. We do see the seeds of Christianity being planted down there, but we really don't see Christianity, or for that matter any of the other world religions, in North America, in South America, in the southern half of Africa, or out in Australia or the islands of Southeastern Asia. Okay, Europe was really where Christians were located. The age of exploration, though, is going to change that. As these European explorers leave Europe on their boats, they bring with them their religious tradition. Okay, and again, Europe being predominantly a Christian continent, that's the religion that they bring with them to these new lands. The result of this is the religious map we see today. On this world map, color-coded by religion, blue represents the areas that are predominantly Christian. Remember, 500 years ago, that area really would just be the area in the blue circle. Okay, we had the other areas with the symbol showing that there was no Christianity there. But now we see a world where the majority of people in North America and South America, in Southern Africa, in Australia, and places of Southeastern Asia like the Philippines are largely Christian. And that's a direct result of this time period where European explorers leaving Europe bring this religion with them. Okay, so in terms of our essential knowledge, what do we want to take from this? We want the idea that especially after 1517, when Martin Luther starts the Reformation, we see not only a race for territory and land, we also see a race for spreading religions. Europeans are trying to spread their specific faith, whether it's Christian or whether it's Catholic or Protestant, to new lands. Okay, so remember, Christianity had split into these branches of Protestant and Catholic. Catholic countries like Spain and Portugal wanted to spread Catholicism. The Protestant countries like England and the Netherlands, they wanted to spread the Protestant branch of Christianity. We see this reflected in this map of the Western Hemisphere. We see the purple areas are Protestant and the yellow areas are Catholic. Those areas kind of mirror the countries that settle them from Europe. Okay, in other words, the European countries in yellow are the Catholic countries that settled the areas of the Western Hemisphere that are today largely Catholic. So Catholic Spain, Catholic Portugal, Catholic France brings the Catholic branch of Christianity to these parts of the Western Hemisphere. The Protestant countries like the Netherlands and England are going to bring the Protestant branch of Christianity to these areas highlighted in purple. Okay, so the idea here that the majority of the Western Hemisphere, almost all the Western Hemisphere, is predominantly Christian, but the two branches resulting from the Reformation are reflected here. Canada, the United States, largely being Protestant, and Mexico on down through Central and South America, largely being Catholic. The other thing we want to get from this is the widespread conversion of indigenous peoples. By conversion, we mean a switch or change. We use that term a lot in math and science classes. You convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, or you convert miles to kilometers. You switch it or you change it. By indigenous, we mean the native or the original peoples. We could say the Native Americans were the indigenous peoples of the area around here. Okay, so we see the Native Americans who survive the disease and the conquest are largely going to be changed over to Christianity. The picture we see here on the left is a picture of Columbus arriving in the Americas in 1492. We didn't really have a film crew or a camera crew on site when he arrived, but we often see it depicted like this. Columbus there on bended knee giving thanks for arriving safely. But I want you to look to the left of Columbus there in the area highlighted in the circle. And already 2-3 minutes into Columbus's arrival, we see a priest converting indigenous peoples, native peoples, to Christianity. We see that later on in Mexico after the defeat of the Aztecs by Cortez. And we see the Aztecs, those who survived, being converted to Christianity. We see in this picture, this painting that hangs in the U.S. Capitol, the baptism of Pocahontas. Pocahontas you're probably familiar with from the story of Jamestown and John Smith, or maybe from the Disney movie. Pocahontas, who was a Native American woman, was converted. She was baptized into the Protestant Anglican Church, okay, the Church of England here in Virginia. Okay, we see the result of this does produce some interesting cultural blending. Okay, this is a building down in Cusco, Peru, which was the capital of the Incan Empire before the arrival of the Spanish. The Spanish brought their Christianity with them to this part of the world, and when they arrived, they discovered the Incas had a religion of their own. Okay, and this building, which is now a church, the Church of Santo Domingo, stands on the site of an Incan sun temple. And what we notice here, if we see the bottom portion of the structure, this was the original Incan temple. Okay, those darker walls were the Sun Temple, and the Spanish built their church. They knocked down the temple, but left the foundation walls to build the church on. Okay, also in Cusco, this was a painting. I just like the story behind this. This is a picture of the Last Supper. In again, very important Christian moment. But the painting was done by a Native American artist, somebody, an indigenous person in Peru, back in the 1600s. I don't know from the Bible what was actually served at the Last Supper. I'm guessing it wasn't guinea pig, though. This indigenous artist knew the story of the Last Supper, knew who Jesus was, had the basic idea, was kind of at a loss as to what they were eating. So sticking with what he knew, okay, important guest comes over to dinner, okay, in the culture at the time, guinea pig was on the table. Not only that, the followers of Jesus are drinking chicha, which was a corn beer that's commonly found in the Andes. Probably not the same meal that a European Christian artist would put in front of Jesus and his followers. We also see this reflected in holidays. These two girls are in Mexico celebrating the Day of the Dead, El Dia de Muerte. Apologies for my bad Spanish pronunciation, but this holiday, which is the Christian holiday of All Souls Day, November 1st, which is a day to remember and celebrate the dead, we notice the girl on the right, she has a Christian cross on her forehead. But this holiday in Mexico and parts of Central and South America also blends in an Aztec element. The Aztecs, long before Christianity arrived in the Americas, had a very similar holiday. Okay, and it involved kind of the face painting and the attire that we see on these girls here, the dress that we see the girls wearing. So we really see in this picture kind of a combination of the Christian and the indigenous. We see the native Aztec beliefs that existed in Mexico. And this cultural blending is also a result of the age of exploration and religion. So that pretty much covers what we need to know for Standard 4B.